You're listening to Comic Reflections JLMay 2018 special. I'm your host, Nicholas Prom, and joining me is my friend and fellow podcaster, Gerry McMullen.
Hey, thank you for having me on tonight, Nicholas.
Yeah, so we are here to talk about our issue that we're covering as part of this massive crossover with almost a dozen other podcasts. It's JLMay. We're covering the Silver Age event from the year 2000, which was a group of creators doing a 12-issue homage to Silver Age of comics.
Yes. It was pretty much spearheaded by Mark Waid, as I recall.
Right, and of course, Mark Waid, he's a guy I would either get along with great or not at all.
Yeah. And they specifically were using characters that were active in the 1960s, but with the caveat that they were taking the changes that occurred as a result of Crisis.
Right.
Incorporating them into the story. So
some elements kind of fall apart and don't work that well.
Sorry. So throughout the whole event, there's no appearance of Wonder Woman.
Right.
Because in the post-Crisis, she didn't appear until much later. So,
yeah. And I think maybe this is a way to try and fix the massive continuity gap that is the existence of Wonder Girl.
Mm-hmm.
If you can just kind of say, oh, Donna's a nickname for Diana or some crap like that, you can just say, oh, Wonder Girl was Wonder Woman when she was younger. Okay. Yeah. But I don't even know if that's what they did, what they really did in post-Crisis. I mean, it's still a mess to me.
Yeah, it didn't get better. So as a result, you get it's the Justice League where Black Canary was one of the founding members.
Right, because there's no Earth 2.
Yeah.
Which stinks.
Yeah.
But you are a big fan. I asked you to do this with me because you're a big fan of this event.
Yes.
You even had your issues bound in a hardcover volume.
I did. I took all of the Silver Age issues, and I also threw in like 2004, 2005, DC did a tribute to Julie Schwartz.
Oh, I read a couple of those issues. Those are fun. Yeah.
And so I took all of those issues and bound them all together into a book. I'm friends with Tim Benson of Omaha Bound, and he used to work at Hoach and Binder. He still has some contacts there to help put a book together, and he helped me do a custom cover, which is my best attempt to do an homage of a Silver Age comic.
Oh cover. Yeah, it's got the go-go checks and everything, which is great.
So it's pretty cool, and I love. I mean, this event, as much as I love it, I also know DC's probably in no rush to ever reprint this.
Yeah.
So this is the way to get it onto my shelf as a hardbound book, is to get it bound myself.
Yeah, and I should mention the other shows that are participating in this crossover and tell people, please go subscribe to those shows and listen to theirs. We're like one of the last ones in this crossover. Yeah. But Justice's First Dawn, the Fire and Water podcast have one that's going to show up somewhere in the mix. These are all kind of, the order is kind of loose in this event, so it's not like
a starting point and a finishing point.
And then everything else is pretty interchangeable, which is nice in a way. It was a little maddening as I was reading through this, but like it makes it kind of easy to make it loose like that. And that was an aspect that made it feel genuine to reading like a pile of random Silver Age comics.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, let's see, who else? Relatively Geeky, Coffee and Comics, from my friend Clinton Robinson, Supermates, The Idle Head of Diabolou, with the infamous and cantankerous Diabolou Frank, Waiting for Doom, The Long Box Crusade, The Lantern Cast, Batgirl to Oracle, Comic Reflections, of course, and and the Cosmic Treadmill. We'll wrap it up with the 80-page giant.
Okay.
But yeah. In general, I found this event to be really hit or miss. I know you love it. I love Silver Age comics, okay?
Yeah.
And I appreciate homages to it, like Chris Ecker's Big Bang Comics. Chris is a friend of mine. Or Alan Moore and Rick Veitch's 1963 limited series. Those are fun. This is fun. But they're kind of like not terribly satisfying for me, because even though we're just having fun here, there's just nothing quite as satisfying as the real thing, you know. So it succeeds in places and fails in others. But our issue is kind of I feel one of the better-ish ones.
I really think this one stands out for multiple reasons. First of all the issues that were used were titles that were active in the 1960s.
Yeah.
So we're covering the Brave and the Bold issue, which at this point in the 1960s, in the Silver Age, it was transitioning from a catch-all book into a superhero team-up book.
Right. I mean, for a long time, Brave and the Bold didn't really have its own identity. It was just kind of like, well, we have Showcase, which was kind of an anthology tryout book, and then we also have another anthology tryout book. Just that's not terribly...
like, Brave and Bold 28 was the first appearance of the Justice League.
Right.
And Suicide Squad, I believe, had their first appearance as a concept in Brave and Bold.
I think that's right. But yeah, it's kind of weird. It's weird that DC would have more than one anthology tryout book. But, comics. They'd be different.
Yeah. Beginning with issue 50, it kind of became a team-up book. You had Green Arrow and Martian Manhunter in the very first team-up.
Yeah.
And it bounced around with different characters during that time. And around 65 to 70, it seemed like Batman kind of became like the permanent host of that title.
Yeah. For a little while, they swapped him out with Superman. It was a Superman team-up book in the early Bronze Age. But I think they quickly went back to Batman.
Yeah.
And the Superman didn't get a team-up book until the late 70s of his own.
DC Comics Presents.
Which, I love that book. And I love The Brave and the Bold. These are probably my favorite Batman stories. I love Batman in a team-up setting. Whether it's teaming up with Superman and World's Finest or in The Brave and the Bold. If Bob Haney is writing Batman, that's the Batman I want to read.
Yeah. And for the longest time, Bob Haney was the go-to writer on The Brave and the Bold.
Yeah.
And his stories were generally viewed as being out of continuity. They often referred to the Brave and Bold stories as Earth B stories, as an Earth B for Bob Haney.
Right.
Because you would have Batman teaming up with Sergeant Rock, and Batman teaming up with Earth 2 heroes, and just bouncing all over the place. Whoever Bob felt like writing that month, that's who he teamed Batman up with.
Right. And Bob Haney is one of the most fun writers in comics, but he's not somebody who cared about continuity. He just who cared about writing fun stories. Because of his not caring so much about continuity is the reason we have Wonder Girl.
Yeah.
As a member of the Teen Titans. Because there were Wonder Girl or Wonder Tot stories that were imaginary stories that Robert Kanigher wrote in the Wonder Woman book. And Haney looked at those and thought that she was a separate character altogether, like a sidekick. And so Donna Troy has been a mess of a character for a long time. It's one of those things that Crisis probably even made it worse, like with Power Girl, with the Hawks, the Legion of Superheroes, just things that just got so messed up and never really recovered after that. But that's a whole nother ball of wax. Bob Haney, that's not Bob Haney's fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about this comic. The Brave and the Bold, Silver Age, Brave and the Bold, is from July of 2000, and it went on sale June 24th of that year.
And if you look at the cover price is 250 pennies.
Hey, cool. I'm sure we got some of that in a drawer or under the couch. Speaking of the cover, first of all, I love it. The design, it's totally classic Silver Age looking, with the old DC bullet and everything. The cover, penciled by the great Jim Aparo, one of the last things he did at DC. He was in semi-retirement at this time. Penciled by Jim Aparo, inked by Bill Sienkiewicz.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen the uninked pencils, and Sienkiewicz's inks really bury Aparo's style here, which is sad.
Yeah, you can. When I'm looking at the cover, I see the Felix Faust character and Doc Magnus. I see Aparo there. Everything else, it doesn't look like Aparo.
Yeah, and that's really sad. I think Gold really looks like still kind of retain Gold and Iron kind of retain the style a bit, but Sienkiewicz's inks just kind of smear Aparo's pencils. You've seen the original pencils as well. They're in the what's it called? The not showcase issue. The Secret Files and Origins issue that's companion to this. They show those original pencils. I'm like, oh, you can see Aparo all over the place in that. Here, I didn't know by looking at it, and as a big Jim Aparo fan, that's kind of not good that he wasn't immediately recognizable.
Yeah.
Anyway, the story in the issue is called The Great Gotham Switcheroo, and it was written by Bob Haney, zany Bob Haney. It's the last thing he wrote for DC before his death.
Yep.
There's one other thing they had published posthumously that had never been done. It was an old Teen Titans script. But yeah, this is basically the last thing he did for them. Pencils by Kevin Maguire, which is great, and inked by Mark Farmer. Kevin Maguire, of course, he did the Bwahaha Justice League stuff, and that's some really fun stuff. And as far as facial expressions go, Maguire is aces.
Yeah, a year or two ago when I first met you up at Rose City, I brought this book along with me, and Maguire was there.
Yeah.
But brought it to him to sign. He's like, I did something in this. And it's like, well, it's a custom bind book, but you did this Brave and Bold edition. Oh, all right, I'll definitely sign it then.
Okay. But and I like it. The Mark Farmer's not a bad inker for him. Mark Farmer, he's kind of teams up with Alan Davis a lot.
Yes.
Alan Davis and Mark Farmer are the Ross Andru and Mike Esposito type pairing that are just, their stuff works together so beautifully.
Or Byrne and Austin.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Yeah. And I love that it starts off with this splash page of something that we're going to see later in the story.
Very Silver Age.
Yeah, and then we get back into the meat of the story and go forward with this, and it grabs you to get started with the story, and makes you immediately want to turn the page and see how we got to that point.
Yeah. The Metal Men have collectively taken the form of a tank, And it's humorous. Mercury is the canon, element. Platinum is giving directions to them, but we of course have tin and gold, iron and lead as well. And this is one of the more fun Silver Age concepts at DC, like these shape-shifting robots with these very distinct and fun personalities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Metal Men were such a 60s concept that each of them, their personalities reflected their element. And, Mercury was the hothead, always trying to provoke a fight. And
right.
He wanted to be the leader of the group, but could never keep his head on because he was always getting so upset.
Right.
Gold was like the natural leader because everyone looked up to Gold and wanted to be Gold. And Mercury had a stammering problem.
Tin as a...
Or 10, excuse me.
Sorry.
And then Platinum was this, was the female within the group, and she had this crush on Doc, and Doc could never view her more than just as a robot. I mean, they are some fun comics to read from the 60s. If you ever get the chance to find the originals or read the showcase collections with them, it's just simple, fun stories.
Yeah. That's so funny. I forgot. I kind of alluded to Ross Andru and Mike Esposito. Well, they were the art team on the Metal Men.
Yeah.
So I didn't even plan that.
Yeah.
But yeah, do we want to get into this story a bit, Gerry?
Yeah, let's do it. So the Metal Men tank, you see it's traveling through Gotham City. Mercury is firing at targets. They're fighting among themselves. Doc Magnus, of course, threatens that if they can't get along, he'll just melt them all down and start over with new. And
Doc Magnus is a jerk.
What's it?
Doc Magnus is a jerk.
Yeah. We see them going through Gotham City, but we don't know what they're looking for or who they're going after until we get the flashback scene where Doc Magnus has been called by the government to come in and help them try to track down Felix Faust and Catwoman, who apparently are teaming up, and Gotham is suffering because of that.
The thing is, what use would Felix Faust have with Catwoman?
None.
Right. But I mean, of course, in this storyline, of course, they've body swapped.
Yeah.
It's really Black Canary and Green Arrow.
Yes.
And Batman is the Penguin. The Penguin is in Batman's body.
Yeah. And that might be something, if, for whatever reason, if you haven't listened to the other podcast episodes, if you haven't read the very first Silver Age issue, Alien has come to Earth, he has made the heroes and villains swap their bodies. The bulk of the heroes, like Luthor is Superman now and all that, they've gone off planet to help this alien, and they've kind of left the Penguin as Batman behind on Earth to kind of keep things in line and keep things going forward. So many of the quote Justice League members are missing, and the Justice League members are actually in the villains' bodies, like Nicholas alluded to there, and they're trying to do what they can to get things set up right.
Right.
So,
and the Metal Men are unaware of the Switcheroo, but have been called in to help Batman capture, defeat whatever Felix Faust and Catwoman. Sorry.
Yeah. And so we get back into the current time. We see Platinum finding Batman, but they kind of note that Batman doesn't seem to be himself. Doesn't seem comfortable in his body, like he's not used to it. And really, it's only 10 that really notices that. But Everyone else is just so excited to be working with Batman that, hey, we'll do whatever Batman says.
Right.
So we cut over to Felix Faust and Catwoman again, Green Arrow and Black Canary, and they're at. Are they at a museum?
It's either a museum or a library.
Yeah, and Felix Faust is going through all these tests, trying to find magical spells. Like Green Arrow would know how to cast these spells.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, we've established that, okay, the Penguin is not used to this athletic body, but you'd think you would have an easy time with it because you're not limited physically.
Mm-hmm.
And they're relying on, like, practically there being muscle memory for Felix Faust or Green Arrow to use Felix Faust's sorceress abilities. Like, this doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
But Bob
But
Haney.
again, it works as a Bob Haney story.
Yeah. Right.
So the Metal Men come barging into the building where Felix Faust and Catwoman are. They're trying to get them to surrender. The Mercury wants to attack them. He starts shooting at them, and flipping through the pages here. The Felix Faust throws a spell at the Metal Men. It knocks the tank out, and Doc Magnus gets hurt in the process. If you've read the Metal Men comics, Doc Magnus probably gets a concussion at least once an issue.
Man.
He is always getting hurt. Something's happening. And of course, Platinum's so in love with him that she rushes him off to the hospital.
Right.
And without Platinum and without Doc Magnus there, the Metal Men can't do anything but fight among themselves. Felix Faust and Catwoman uses that as their break to get away. And Felix Faust is still looking for this book to help him cast spells to try to somehow reverse their condition. And he throws open this book, and the spell goes out, hits the Metal Men, and it reverts them to humans.
Well, I wouldn't say revert because they weren't human to begin with.
True.
It turns them into humans.
Yeah. Good point.
Sorry.
No, you're right on target there.
It's comics. We have to split hairs. Oh.
And of course, they're so excited to be humans now, they totally forget why they were even there in the first place.
Right.
Platinum's thinking, oh, now Doc will finally see me and we can get married and I can be his wife and all this.
But she goes to Doc and he doesn't even know who she is.
Doesn't even recognize her. Tin is all excited that he doesn't have his stutter anymore.
Right.
Mercury, I find it funny that Mercury's kind of a short guy. Not saying that all short people are hot-tempered or whatever, but
right.
I think it's done intentionally in this case. So, and meanwhile, Batman, aka Penguin,
Bat Penguin.
I love that he still carries over the Penguin speech pattern, so we get lots of why, and they know that he waddles still, and
why would he waddle? He's not portly. He doesn't have like a messed up hip or anything. Like what?
Yeah.
But comics.
Yeah. So they realize that they've got to go back into their robot bodies in order to make this work, and so they reluctantly agree. We get to that scene that we saw at the very beginning of the issue where Doc Magnus is getting ready to convert them back into their robotic cells.
Oh, I didn't understand this. Doc programs the spell into a machine and then throws a switch to turn the human versions of the Metal Men back into robots. If that's not a Bob Haney plot device, I don't know
Yeah.
what is. That's crazy. He programmed magic into a computer.
Yeah.
Okay, just throwing that out there.
Yeah. No.
No big deal.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Penguin is starting to feel pains like he's starting to change, and he's trying to fight that. The Metal Men have gotten back into their robot bodies, and they're still tracking Felix Faust and Catwoman. And again, I'm still amazed as to how well versed Felix Faust, Green Arrow, is on casting spells and all that. That they managed to position themselves on this billboard arrow so that when Mercury fires on them, it launches this arrow and they're able to get away.
Right. So the Metal Men don't really know what's up. Batman has departed company from them and has reverted back to the Penguin because in one of the other previous parts, and I forgot which one. I can't remember if it's Showcase or one of those. The heroes are able to reverse the body swap.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And that brings our issue to a conclusion. I mean, they point back to Showcase where that event occurs. They're looking ahead to
the Silver Age 80-page giant.
80-page giant that kind of that brings all the stories together.
Yeah.
As a standalone story, you didn't absolutely need the first part, the intro to Silver Age, to fully get anything. It kind of holds up on its own.
I think there are a couple of aspects I think I'd be confused if I just picked this one up.
Yeah.
But knowing that there's a body swap that happened, okay. I don't know about like the larger storyline. This is just kind of like a pocket story, like the Challenges of the Unknown, for example. I mean, they're just kind of like in an issue and then out. But I like that all these stories kind of touch on the various aspects of the DCU, at least the main superhero elements. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah. And to me, I like this combination just because so many times in the actual Brave and Bold book, Batman and the Metal Men teamed up.
Oh, yeah.
I did a quick check. 7 different times Bob Haney had Batman and the Metal Men teaming up in the Brave and the Bold.
Yeah. It's crazy because he has almost that many team-ups with Sergeant Rock where you think there wouldn't be any.
Yeah.
It's... I mean, I read one just recently and I was like, oh, clearly this is like the Earth 2 Batman. They even changed the symbol on the chest to like, it's not the Infantino new look Batman.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, all right. But yeah. There's a lot of weird team ups in Brave and the Bold and in DC Comics Presents. But I like them. Well, Gerry, what do you think? Do you have anything else, or should we just wrap this up?
I would say, definitely encourage people, stay tuned because there's still one podcast, or I think just one podcast. I think we're like next to the last before we get to the 80-page giant.
Right. The Cosmic Treadmill will be covering the 80-page giant, so that'll be the last part.
Yeah. And all the other parts are out there. If you haven't heard them, go out and give them a listen. Everyone, this a little pull back the curtains. I mean, this is a project that's been being worked on for months now.
Right.
And everyone is all gung-ho for this. And do yourself a favor, go out and give some of these a listen, and you might find a new podcast that you want to listen to.
Speaking of podcasts, so the other podcasts that folks should check out, be sure to check out Gerry's podcast, The Worst Comic Podcast Ever.
Thank you.
It's actually pretty good, guys.
We keep trying to get better.
No, it is a good show, folks, really.
Yeah.
And I listen to it every week. I enjoy it.
Thank you.
Um,
The three of us, my partners, Colin and John and myself, we've known each other since seventh grade. So we like to say that we've gone from middle school to middle age together. And we get together once a week to talk comics and movies and TV and any other nerdy stuff that we know that our wives don't want to hear us talk about. So,
uh, and of course, if you can't get enough of my voice or Gerry's, you can check out Comic Reflections and the show that Gerry and I typically do together, the Marvel
yeah,
Saga,
yeah,
which we've reached just about the halfway mark
good point.
through our run. We've got a dozen episodes under our belt, 13 more to go, maybe with a couple of specials in between.
Yeah, yeah.
Details to follow on that. And yes. So yeah, this is Comic Reflections. Until next time, we'll see you in the funny pages.